Recording is on.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is the Bitcoin design call for refreshing time locks with Payjoin with the Liana wallet team. Um, the topic is quite a mouthful, but I hope that we have an interesting time in discussing the UX of this. Payjoin and refreshing time logs is something that I had not thought of as helping each other. So this is an exciting topic for me, but uh, let's see how this goes.
I had a question. I mentioned just Payjoin version 2 and just at
Yeah.
the beginning, but this is not what we're
Yeah.
talking about, right? That was you shared a document recently about Payjoin
Mhm.
version 2 UX, right? But this is
Yeah.
version 1, or would this also be version 2 related?
Um, I think this would. I think it could be either version 1 or 2,
Mhm.
typically based on who the other party is, like who the sender is. So I think I should like quickly maybe just like give a quick overview. I think that was what maybe you were looking for, but
Oh yeah,
uh,
the whole background on Liana
yeah,
and why that's relevant and just super
yeah,
top level, and then we can go deeper because I think it's going to get complex pretty
yeah,
quickly.
right. Manuel, do you want to do it or should I do it?
I
Just
can do
the
the
Liana part.
Liana part.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
not the expert on the time like on the Payjoin part, but I'm the product manager for Wizard Sardine, that is the company developing Liana, so I can talk about it a little bit. Sorry, I don't have slides to present at the moment, but I will improvise. Liana is a time lock based wallet, which means that while you typically have in your a typical wallet, you have like a policy, a spending policy, and you can use that with all your funds, like a single signature policy or a multi-signature policy, so 2 of 3 or whatever. Liana adds an additional layer, let's say, that is the time layer. So you still have with Liana your primary spending policy, so your single signature or your multi-signature, but you have some recovery policies, so things that we call recovery policies, that are policies, spending policies that activates only after a specific amount of time has passed since the last time you moved your funds, let's say. So you basically receive a UTXO or a coin or whatever you want to call it, and this starts the time lock, let's say. So if you assign to the wallet a time lock of 1 year and you received the coin the 1st of January 2025, for example, for the first year, only the primary spending policy will be able to spend the funds. So for example, if it's my ledger, let's say my first primary policy is the single sig with a ledger, I can only spend the coin with the ledger. But if the 1 year passes and I didn't move the UTXO that I received on the 1st of January, a recovery policy, so for example, a Jade or a Bitbox or whatever it is, another single sig, but it can also be a multi-sig, can recover the funds. So this can be useful for use cases like the inheritance one, like for example, I want to be able to my beneficiary to be able to receive, like to recover the funds, but at the same time I don't want them to be able to spend straight away. So I don't want to share with them my primary key, my primary spending policy. So I share with them the recovery policy, and then when I die, unfortunately, I won't be able to move the funds. The time lock will expire, let's say, and the activation of the beneficiary key will happen, and he will be able to recover the funds and move them to another wallet of his possession or whatever. The important thing to highlight here is that the trade-off, of course, is that you need to refresh your coins if you don't want to if you don't want the recovery path to be to the recovery policy to be activated. So, for example, if we stay in the example and I'm still alive, before the 1 year passes, the 1 year time lock passes, I need to send back the UTXO to myself in order to, let's say, reset the time lock. So the timer starts from 0 again. And this applies to all the UTXOs separately. So each UTXO has its own time locks. So this can be a challenge. It's the main challenge for Liana in terms of user experience, because the user needs to log into his wallet and to pay fees. And okay, paying fees is unavoidable, but you need to go into your wallet, to send a transaction to yourself, to sign it, and this is already a pain, let's say, for the users. And there are also privacy considerations, because if, for example, you have many UTXOs and you want to refresh, you need to pay fees multiple times if you want to leave those UTXOs separated for privacy reasons. While if you consolidate them, of course, you pay less fees and you save fees for the future, but at the same time you lose privacy, because you have heuristics that can understand that all these coins were yours. And so if someone knows which, like just one of your inputs, he knows everything, like, let's say, about this transaction. So I hope I summarized a little bit this issue, and that's why we want to improve this user experience, and Payjoin can maybe help for the privacy part. And
I think that was a good explanation. I
Sorry,
think
real
some
quick,
of the
Mo, how does that sound? Anything you want to dig in there?
I'm going to summarize what I understand after hearing everything. The main thing that I basically understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that this is a multi-sig wallet with an additional time lock functionality, and the time lock functionality then allows the funds to be released based on criteria X, Y, and Z. And this is basically the main gist that I got out of everything that Manuel said.
Yeah, and then I think the extra part, if I can try to summarize, is that there's a maximum timer you can set. Like it can only be 1 year in the future. But let's say for your inheritance, you only want your kids to have it 10 years in the future, so right? So you have to reset it regularly. And during that reset, when you do that reset to refresh the timer so it doesn't expire, you have to make a transaction. And then in that transaction, if you don't do it right, then like you might lose some privacy.
I just want to refer to the image that we have for the call. And if you look at the image, that image is like a treasure chest with a time lock on it. So it's a lock, but it's based on a lock.
Okay.
And so that's the basic idea. So when you receive coins, they are like time locked to a certain timer. And when the timer expires, the treasure chest can be opened and the coins can be spent. That's the idea.
Yeah.
And so the problem is that if the timer expires but I have not refreshed the time locks, the recovery path, or the heir or whoever else has the recovery path keys, they will be able to spend it. And in the inheritance thing, we don't want them to spend it unless like you pass away or like something like that. So did that help? The treasure chest thing.
It helps. It's a visual.
Right. And
so you have to, so let's say this is my multi-sig wallet, and then I set it for 10 years, but then a year passes, then I have to go into my wallet again.
You cannot set it for 10 years. It's technically not possible. Like there's a limit.
So okay, then I can set it for 1 year.
Yeah, and then you basically, to reset it, you have to make a transaction to yourself,
refresh
with the new timer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, like think as if the timer lock, that can only be set for 1 year, but you want to do like a longer thing. That's
exactly
one, right? And so it basically boils down to like this refreshing of the time locks becomes like an extra activity that has to be done, right? And as Manuel was saying, the other problem with doing something like that is that when you do the time lock refreshing thing, what you do is that you take all your coins and spend them together, because you want to refresh the time locks for everything at the same time, because
Right.
otherwise every week, every month you will have to do it, right? So that's why. And so that is the second problem, that when you spend all of your coins at the same time to refresh the time lock, that shows up on chain, and it exposes the fact that it is a common owner to
So
all of
that's
these
why they would
coins.
like to do a Payjoin integration,
Exactly.
privacy reasons. Okay, gotcha.
And
Okay.
so that's why they're like exploring this, I think. And well, have you guys decided on using this, or is it like evaluation, or?
Yeah, it's the dance team is working on this. I think they had first proof of concept in I don't remember which event, but sorry for that. But I think the MIT event. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And they proposed to do a production, more production based one. So they contacted us, and I'm here like supporting for like. Validating the reasoning and the UX and this kind of stuff on the Liana side. One thing I wanted to add is that the 1 year and 3 months, that is the maximum time lock, is not something that we decided out of because we were cruel and we didn't want our users to have higher time locks. It's a limitation of the Bitcoin protocol, because we use the mini script that is like a language, let's say, to better write the scripting language of Bitcoin, and the relative time lock of opcode has only a limited number of bytes, and this is why we just have 1 year and 3 months of relative time locks. But I think this is not critical. Like if I think of inheritance, it is a trade-off, of course. If I could make 10 years of time lock, it would be maybe too long if I die soon, because if I die soon, then my heir needs to wait for 9 years or whatever, and maybe it's not what I want. 1 year and something seems reasonable, because I have the trade-off that I need to refresh, so I need to send back to myself. But at the same time, if I die soon, my heirs don't have to wait that much. So I don't think this is the critical issue. The critical issue is that people don't want to refresh and are afraid of fees increasing and the user experience in general, and also the privacy or privacy concerns.
So let me ask you. So people in Liana, they already have to do this, right? Now there's just a Payjoin involved. So can that all be done without the user actually knowing, or does anything about that Payjoin, does it have to surface to the user?
As per my understanding, but again, I'm not the expert of the Payjoin stuff. As I understood it, you in a way you would need to make this experience a little bit worse, because you need to sign a second time. So the discussion we had at the beginning was about, should we focus on the sending or the receiving part, because we could do a Payjoin when we send. So when we spend a transaction, we could Payjoin with other people and make it like it's something that it's undistinguishable from other people's inputs and outputs. Or should we do it when we receive a coin? So maybe we buy something from an exchange, and then we send it to our Liana wallet, and we do a Payjoin while we receive. But both these processes, if I understand correctly, require an additional signature. So while right now, when receiving, the user just needs to open Liana, copy the address and pasting it, and receive the coins, they will need to add a signature process. So they need to sign the transaction, the Payjoin transaction, in order to receive the coins. So this would be beneficial for their, let's say, privacy in their refreshing, because they could choose to Payjoin with a coin that is going to expire soon or whatever. But at the same time, it is painful in terms of user experience, because they need to wait for the transaction and then signing another transaction and whatever. At the same time, in the spending process, they will need to sign a second time once the other person has signed, if I understand correctly. I'm not the expert again. So yeah, maybe here, Yashrey, you can correct me.
Manuel, how do they know, or how are they alerted to the fact that they need to send a transaction to themselves to renew the time lock? How do they know that they need to do this? How
At the moment, we just have a banner inside the app telling them which is the, let's say, closest time lock expiring. Let's say, so maybe if you are close to expiration, we will tell you, oh, your coin, one of your coins is going to expire in a month. So click here to refresh your coin, and you need to sign the transaction. We are thinking of additional services to email or notify in some way the user outside of Liana. But since right now we don't have external services talking to Liana, we for a design choice. Let's say we didn't want to external services to talk with Liana for security. Let's say security reasons. We don't even have the fiat price API connection and this kind of stuff. At the moment, we don't have it in the basic version. We are considering having it as maybe an additional service that we offer to users that want this kind of thing. But at the moment, you need to log into Liana to see the expiration date.
Could the signing be done blindly if the hardware wallet supported it? I know that there was a hardware wallet that supported some sort of coin join thing, maybe with like Samurai. So basically, if a company like, I don't know, Ledger or some other hardware manufacturer made a specific, I will co-sign transactions if they net benefit me or if they don't reduce my balance. This way, you would just connect your hardware wallet, and it would, like, anyone can take initiative to do a Payjoin, and you would just refresh your UTXOs on the request of somebody wanting to do a Payjoin.
Yeah, this is actually something we are considering also independently from the Payjoin. We were considering exploring to have technically it's called the HSM hardware, in which you basically have a co-signer hardware that just signs transaction that you set up your rule for. Like, for example, I just want this hardware to co-sign transactions that are to myself, so you can use it to refresh your coins, so you can be safe in keeping it not that hidden, let's say. And this would help with CoinJoin as well, but we are basically not there yet. There is no alternative on the market that does this at the moment. So yeah, potentially it could be a very cool idea, but at the moment I don't think there is anything.
It's also a legitimate coin join. I don't want to introduce the term, but you're coin joining because you have to rotate your UTXOs and you don't want to pay. So the coin join sort of just happens as a side effect to your primary need of rotating your UTXOs.
Yeah.
So in this scenario with the coin join, I think incentives wise it makes sense. A bunch of people have a bunch of coins that they want to refresh, and so they can come together in the coin join. I think that is the idea for the purpose of like refreshing. I mean, that's the idea, right?
Question around that. Who are those other people? Who is the Payjoin partner in this? Would it be Liana to, I don't know, be that person that, or would they try to hook up, different users with each other, or?
On the receive end, I think it's the sender, but yeah, again, I'm not the expert here, but maybe Ashray, you can chime in if you have more details. But I think it's in the receive, it's the sender itself, so you can Payjoin with the sender itself.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. So I think with Payjoin, I think one of the potential benefits that's possible in this kind of wallet is that you are the sender and you are the receiver in some way. For example, if it's my inheritance wallet, it's usually me being the sender who's sending coins to myself. I think
For the
is
time
that
lock refresh, yeah. If you're
yeah,
just like buying stuff and putting it into your inheritance, then you're receiving it from somewhere else in exchange or somewhere
yeah,
else, right?
yeah,
Then you have a
yeah,
third party. But for
yes.
the refresh, you don't have a third party. You're sending to yourself. But I assume you need a third party for it to be,
A Payjoin,
yeah.
because
Otherwise,
otherwise there's nothing to
you're hugging
join.
yourself, right?
There's
Hugging
nothing
yourself.
to join.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does that happen then?
Yeah. I think E wants to say something. They
Yeah,
wanted to say.
I was
Yeah.
thinking about sort of similar things, and essentially then it turns into a kind of coin join more because it's like you're waiting and willing to do a transaction at any time that anyone requests. So it needs to be somebody else that initiates the I want to do a transaction, and then you just say, all right, I have some inputs and I have an output or one or more outputs.
Right.
So what would this look like? I'm just going through the steps in my
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
It's 1 year later, the person receives a banner notification in the app. You need to refresh your time lock. Then they click it, and then they're instructed to send themselves a transaction, send themselves Bitcoin. Then they would be then instruct. No, okay, no, Yashraj,
It
no.
might just say, yeah, I know. So I'm saying on the communication side, it might just say, hey, click this button to
To refresh the
refresh
time.
your this thing, and the fees is this much. Like they don't
Not asking them
have
to
to know
send.
what.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't have to know what they are doing. I'm not sure how Liana does it, but the user doesn't necessarily have to know what they are doing. They just have to know that they're like refreshing time logs. And in the case of like with Payjoin, if the Liana wallet side is the receiver, in that case it can be just like, hey, you like have a new notification, there is an incoming transaction, and you open the application, and then it kind of happens automatically in the background. Like my point being that it doesn't have to like expose the complexity of what's actually happening
The
in there, I
coin
guess.
join.
Yeah, I mean, if
Yeah,
Liana has a bunch of UTXOs lying around at all times to kind of pay join with people, and they're willing to do that as a service almost, then yeah, you
yeah,
could. Then you basically have an instant partner who's always there. If you don't have that, then you need some type of marketplace or other Liana users to just to partner up.
I mean, as Yashar said, if you don't want to reveal the whole page join thing, you can just say you are refreshing your time lock in a private and secure. Would you
yeah.
like to refresh your time lock in a private and secure way? Yes. If so, proceed. Like, then you're informing, and then I guess you could put some information
Yeah.
behind that should they want to know more.
So I think with Payjoin, and I think that this is a big catch. I wish Dan were here to make sure that I'm not saying something wrong,
Yeah.
and maybe he can also validate what I'm saying. Uh, I've tried to talk about this in like with Dan and other guys. Like the problem right now is that there is no notification system, so you have no way of knowing that you like have this incoming page join that you have to just like open the laptop, open the app, sign, done. That would be so nice if you could have a notification, but as far as I understand, there is no mechanism for that. And so essentially like you kind of have to wait till the user comes online, or maybe you send them notification every month, just like, hey, open the app, and then after the user happens to open the application, then like maybe the application can detect for the user, but there is no notification
So
system.
let's dig into this because I think that's where the Payjoin V1 and V2 come in. So Payjoin V1 is server-based. So your wallet talks to a server and says, "Hey, I want to do a Payjoin," and sends over a PSBT. The server adds its own stuff, sends it back to you, and then there's a communication between your wallet and the server, and these two can talk to each other, and they pretty quickly send stuff back and forth and figure it out. Now because I looked at your document earlier and had AI explain it to me like I'm 5 and dug into a few things. So the reason for Payjoin V2 is that it's kind of a lot of overhead to run a server, and that kind of preventing
Yeah.
adoption. So the idea was to let's get rid of a server. So and that is where for V1 you don't need notifications because they're like direct communication. V2 happens where
Yeah.
let's say I want to do a Payjoin, and it's
Yeah.
almost like there's a Dropbox somewhere. I'm going to take my inputs, I'm per transaction. I'm going to put in that box. And then the other person has
Yeah.
to check the box, right? They don't know. Like they just have to regularly
Exactly.
look into the box and say, like, is there something for
Yeah.
me? Like, okay, oh, there is something. I'm gonna do it, and
This.
then I'll update it and put my stuff in.
Yeah.
And then I have to check in the box and to see if there's something in there
Yeah.
for me. And if we're
Yeah.
on the same page, like everyone checks every 5 seconds, which is a lot probably, which a dedicated service may do, or if you're just very urgently trying to do something, then that's cool. But if it's something that happens very occasionally, or there's a lot of overhead, or it's expensive in terms of bandwidth, I don't know, there might be other reasons.
Yeah.
Then you get all these delays, and people might miss things, and maybe those might even expire,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yes. I think Christoph, the Dropbox metaphor, I think that is the perfect metaphor. So basically, the directory server or the relay is basically the Dropbox. So
Yeah.
both sides, whenever they come and drop the message in the Dropbox for the other party, and there is no way for them to talk to the other party. So at the other party's convenience, the other party will show up and they will check the Dropbox and they'll say, "Hey, there is a Payjoin draft here. Let me do the signing and all of that and put it back." I think that is a really good metaphor for that. I think
And
something else. Just one quick point on that. Uh, Maybe mobile wallets on Android especially can run like a background service that maybe checks every hour or every 5 minutes or something like that. I'm not too sure of the technical aspects of that, but if something like that is possible, then in that case, like maybe in that case the app can show the notification,
Yeah.
or maybe they can send an email. I mean, like, it depends on how Liana is like
I mean, it's a bit
handling
like
that.
Nostr too, right? It just kind of has to keep checking relays all the time. The relays don't tell
Yeah.
you anything. They're not going to reach out to you. You just have to do it yourself. But I guess since we're talking about a specific product, maybe it depends on what
Yes.
infrastructure Liana is willing to provide. Is Liana willing to run a server and facilitate these things, or is it like it's up to you? we just have the client functionality, and then we kind of depend on, I don't know, shared or public infrastructure that maybe someone else runs, or I don't know, maybe it's Nostr relays, or just like nothing owned by Liana where Liana could facilitate the communication.
We potentially have we provide a backend infrastructure for our users, because when you set up a wallet, you need to select which kind of node you want to connect to in order to get the blockchain data. And we last September, you have the opportunity to use your own Bitcoin Core, or either your own Bitcoin Core, your Electrum, or you can also use our Liana Connect, let's say, service that is basically connecting to our server that has an Electrum server, and we give you the information about your coins and the addresses. Of course, it has privacy implication towards us, but this service does also some other things like backup of descriptors, coordination mechanism between multiple people that have the same descriptor, let's say, the same wallet, in different instances. So we could potentially provide a service that the user, if he wants, I'm not sure it is the thing that we want to do, but anyway, because of course we need to see what is the effort and everything and the return on it. But potentially we could have this server with this backend service checking on the folder and saying, oh, there is a Payjoin. We notify you when there is a Payjoin possible for the refresh transaction. Yeah, potentially it's feasible.
I have a question because Christoph mentioned that the Payjoin V2 is about this bucket, and these two people are not really communicating with each other. There's a bucket in the middle. The UTXO is inside it, and then if we agree to transact, I walk up to the bucket, I check if the UTXO is there, and then I confirm it's there. But how quickly is this happening? Because is it happening instantaneously, or are you waiting for the person to walk to the bucket and verify?
As
Yeah.
often as people check the bucket, right? If they
Right.
don't check it for a week, then it takes a week.
Because then if you do use this in the timelock functionality refreshing, that means if a person is waiting for Payjoin V2 to refresh the timelock and no one's walking up to the bucket to check inside,
Yeah.
then how do they know how long they're going to wait?
I guess in that case they would have to fall back to the regular thing, I guess, right? So it's
Because
like what? Yeah, that is a good
That is
question
an
for sure.
interesting idea, right? If the users are if they get notified like you have 2 months to refresh your thing, then that's a long time, right? You can wait 2 weeks or a month
you could,
even.
yeah,
Just drop it in the
definitely.
box and just check every day or so. Not a big deal. And if the time starts ticking down,
Yeah,
then you could still do the other one. And maybe the public option is kind of the preferred one because there's a broader mix of coins that are being that are involved.
Hmm.
And then the down to the last minute option, that is maybe Liana is facilitating it with their own UTXO. So just to make sure that people are taken care of, which then has the privacy implications and other things. But yeah, this would also be interesting if let's say Dan or some of the people on the more technical side,
Yeah.
there might be some technical reasons also why to go one way or another.
And then my next question would be would it be possible to show that time waiting period on the interface? Does Payjoin V2 provide feedback and say, okay, no, and then, okay, so that leaves the user with, I don't know when this is going to happen.
yeah. Like this lack of notification thing, like that, like I like realized that, and I was like, oh, this is yeah, it's not good. And now the interesting thing is, if Liana is willing to run a server, then it's kind of like Payjoin V1,
Yeah.
because in V1 you have a server, and that just helps with almost everything. I mean, that helps with everything.
But I think it depends on the communication. If you just tell, because this is like serious money, this is inheritance. People pay attention, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't expect them
Yeah,
to understand all the technical implications, but they're going to make sure that they want to do this right. So if you just tell them, okay, we're going to initiate this process, there's a 99% chance it works. It usually, especially once Liana has some experience, they're like, oh, usually it takes like 2 to 3 days, and it's the best
Yeah.
privacy, whatever. If it takes longer than a week, we're going to expedite it, and we'll let you know. So I think with the right communication,
yeah,
people would be
yeah,
okay. It's not urgent. You're not paying at the counter, and in 5
No.
seconds, you need to have a payment done.
But I think still clear communication in terms of a waiting period. I think for me as a user, that would be a clear decision between using V1 or V2. If V1 of Payjoin is going to provide more clearer communication or be instantaneous because it's hosted by Liana, that would just make people feel safer, I think, or more,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think definitely for sure, like this communication, that is like one of the themes on my in my Payjoin UX challenges article, like that's like I didn't include like a lot of solutions based thing because I don't know, I'm figuring things out as we go along. I think that's what we do together, but I totally agree because that's what my realization was, is that like good communication is super important for people with Payjoin in general. But for Iana also, like this communicating with people and like sending them like an email or whatever. Because I think one more thing with Liana wallet is that it is a desktop only wallet, and
Mm.
so you can like come online like when you're in the subway. I don't know if like rich people take subways, but like you could be like traveling somewhere and you can just whip out your phone and click on the notification and go online and just sign the transaction. With Iana, like you have to come to your laptop, open it up, launch the app, and then you have to do it. And so like just like try to communicate in as many ways as you can, as often as you can, like try to make it like a predictable experience, like a consistent experience, like hey, as a user I don't have to worry about this at all. I'm going to get the right communications and things like that, and just like create those opportunities for the user to come online so that the page on process can go forward.
Mhm.
If Liana doesn't run a server. If Liana runs a server, I think things could be much, much easier. But if it doesn't like run a server, then like these communication, I think it would be super important.
And I would assume if Liana is the Payjoin partner, then they would also try to put the fees on the user, because they don't want to like lose constantly partner up and lose tons of Bitcoin on fees. So the in that case, the user might prefer not to go that route because it might be more expensive.
Yeah. Um,
Manuel,
yeah.
how are you feeling about this
Yeah,
conversation?
like is this
Quite
conversation
quiet
helping?
for a while.
No, I'm interested in your thoughts, in your thought process. I'm getting to the idea that yeah, notification, some sort of notification is required for this kind of thing to work, because without it, I think it's a bit difficult, because we need to sign a couple of times and log in and this kind of those things. And yeah, there is. I have to say, the coordination part, as you know, like had some legal issues, let's say, in the past. So there is also some this kind of discussion, like if we want to coordinate between users having Payjoin. I know that Kevin already was thinking about it in the past for refreshing. So I'm not sure this is the feasible way to go. But maybe just checking if there is any, let's say, transaction in the basket, in the bucket, or whatever we call it. Maybe it's just a different service. I'm not sure about this kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm open to it, because I think it's an important feature for users. It's kind of a niche use case, probably in my perspective, but probably the Liana is already a niche, so probably it's the same. It could be the overlapping niche, let's say. The ones that want the time lock, the extra security, probably also care about privacy and this kind of stuff. So I think it fits with our users. I'm not sure about. I'm still not sure. I'm still not convinced enough about the smoothness of the experience and what we required for that.
So I would lay out two paths. For the legal stuff, I don't know if you mean the samurai thing. I mean, they advertise their service as helping like gray and black markets hide illicit financial activity. Like, if you do that, you're going to be in trouble. Any service you provide, like, hey, we help money laundering. So just don't do that. You are helping people, store their keys securely and send it to themselves, right? And if you're providing that service, so that should be fine. Hi Dan. So there are probably two routes to lay out. One is the two routes to explore. And as we talked about, in one, Liana would take a much more active role. And in the other one, which is less predictable, it's more in the hands of the individual users to kind of find each other in the bucket and negotiate with each other. And yeah, maybe laying out both would be a good idea. And now we
Hey
have the
Dan,
pro here.
Dan, you wanna say something? Say hi. How's
Hi
it going?
guys.
We just were wanting you to come, Dan, and you just
Yeah,
arrived.
not 40 minutes ago. My apologies. Yes, I'm here. I hope things were otherwise fruitful.
No, I think so. Thanks for joining. We basically did very briefly talked about just caught up, made sure everyone's on the same page about time locks and how that works, what Liana does. Then we talked about Payjoin V1 and 2 and how that comes into play. And we just talked about the UX differences and what it also would mean for Liana if they do 1 or 2. And yeah, so I mean, there are basically two very different approaches to this between the two versions, as if we understood them correctly, and then you have very different UX expectations between
And
them.
what was the conclusion on the decision there, or the core differences between the two?
Yeah, I'll try to summarize them real quick. So I guess the smoothest experience would be if Liana runs a V1 server, and it's like I log in, I'm like I need to refresh my time logs, press the button. There's a quick negotiation happening between this Liana provided service, and we're done basically. And Liana is also kind of the, I guess, liquidity provider or Payjoin partner in this regard, and they would just do all this stuff. Which then puts a lot of Yashraj, you're about to say something?
Yeah. So, Christoph, agree with everything. I think that was what we were kind of discussing about and kind of I felt agreed on. Just to add on to that, Dan, the rationale for this was that we like discussed how there is no way to notify each other or even for the directory to notify the users, and so we like in v2 Payjoin we like have to wait and like rely on the user to come online by themselves before the Payjoin process can be done. But instead, if there is someone running a server or if the receiver is running a server, or in other words, if Liana is running a server on behalf of the receiver, it like takes half of the uncertainty out of it, and it allows for notifications and things like that.
Yeah, that would be kind of the other extreme, right? The V2 where there is some Dropbox somewhere and the user's like, I'm going to drop my stuff in there, and then some other random users like picks it up and signs things, and then your users kind of find each other in some way. Liana kind of stays out of the whole thing, and then you
Yeah.
wallets need to check, and it's the least predictable.
What do you mean by random user, though? It's the only way you'd find a mailbox is if someone gave you a URI.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like, that's where we don't know how it works. Is it like a Nostr relay? Like, hey, they are public, and people can just drop their stuff in, and other people can check, and that's how they find each other. Or if it's
the URI gives you a specific address that says this is my mailbox. So the experience is just like using an address or a Lightning invoice. You just have more information.
Yeah.
That lets you rendezvous with the other person. Yeah.
Yeah, so just to put it in a different way, just in case, is that when the receiver shares their payment information with Payjoin V2, they like not only share their address, but they also share the location of the Payjoin, like that Dropbox, because otherwise the sender doesn't know which Dropbox to use, right? And so the receiver tells them, hey, use this Dropbox, and that's like the only time they talk to each other.
I guess the key in there is that another Liana user who may also be in that situation may want, like two Liana users may want to partner with each other. And that is less predictable than Liana providing the service, and that's where there would be some asynchronous communication happening. So,
Go ahead, Mo. Sorry.
Yeah, if they opted to use Payjoin V2, Could they set something up on the back end that would allow the two users to find each other? Is the first question. And the second question is, which we were trying to answer, but no one knew the answer is there a time indication of how long this process is going to take if they use V2? And Yashra said, no, there is no time indication because you don't know when someone's going to come past and check the box.
So, with regard to the first thing, I'm a little confused about this whole introducing a third party to do a Payjoin, because my understanding and promotion of Payjoin has all been around having this batching happen at the time of a transfer. So I want to send money to Mo. Mo and I decide to both contribute to this transaction. So I don't really understand how like a Liana server would come into play there. The second thing regarding a time is every single Payjoin URI does have an expiration associated with it. By default, it's 24 hours. It's just like a lightning invoice. You get the invoice, you know that it's valid for this amount of time, and then it's not. So that the amount of information that's in the existing UIs with Bull Bitcoin and Cake is limited. I don't know if it includes that in the UI, but that's because we're launching an absolutely minimal viable product, not because the spec and the development kit won't allow for it.
Okay.
This is exactly why we need Dan here, huh?
That's
Yeah, guys,
exactly why
I totally dropped the ball. I thought the call was in 2 hours from now.
Yeah.
I don't know how I showed up now. It's totally my fault. I apologize.
Now, no worries. To your first point, that conversation is around refreshing the time logs where you're essentially sending to yourself.
Yeah.
See, even
Well,
with the time lock refresh, you can do that by sending to yourself without a Payjoin. That has nothing to do with Payjoin in my eyes. That's anytime you refresh a time lock, you're sending to yourself. The only time you do Payjoin is like if you're receiving funds, now you have an opportunity to spend coins out of your time lock and into a new time lock. That's when you can automate the time lock refresh.
Because we were going for the time lock plus the Payjoin. So we were actually talking about combining the time lock refresh with the Payjoin happening in the background for the privacy reason.
yeah. So I'll just like clarify regarding this, right? So page this time lock refresh is usually typically done by the user themselves. So whenever the app tells them, they just send all of their coins to themselves, right? In that case, there is like you pay the fees, you indicate that all of these coins were owned by you and things like that.
I imagine it all. I haven't used Liana, to be fair. I haven't played around with it enough
Yeah.
yet, only at the hackathon. But if you make a send and you create change, I imagine your change is refreshed anyhow. Is that right?
Yes, any send is refreshing the coin. So the change is refreshed. So you have two ways. Maybe we didn't explain it well. You have two ways to refresh your coins. Either you use habitually your wallet, so you basically spend with your wallet. So you send a transaction to buy something or to pay a salary or whatever, and the coins, the change that you get back is refreshed because it is a new coin with a new time lock. Or you need to refresh by sending it to yourself. But this is, let's say, assuming the user is not actively spending enough to refresh all his coins, let's say. This is like the refreshing use case is the typical example of cold storage, because typically people don't spend that much in cold storage, but maybe not. And for example, in our company's wallet, we use Liana as a company wallet, and they never had to refresh without like a normal spend. They since they pay maybe salaries or this kind of stuff, they always refresh their coins by normal usage of the wallet, let's say.
Yeah, and so so the rationale behind even doing a Payjoin or considering a Payjoin is the fact that it allows you to be opportunistic with the time lock refresh.
When you're receiving, yes. When you're
Yes,
sending a Payjoin, you might do it for some privacy benefit, but I don't think Payjoin gives you a unique opportunity to refresh your time locks while you're spending, because you can always
Yeah.
refresh while you're spending.
Yes. Yes. So Payjoin is just a way for me to be opportunistic. Like, so for example, if the time lock refreshes every 6 months, but like in month two I'm receiving a transaction to my wallet, that is an opportunity to just contribute my coins that are going to be expired in 6 months, and just contribute those coins to the Payjoin and then refresh them, so that like that 4 months hence transaction is not required. Did that make
Yes.
sense, Mo?
Yes.
No. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like the doing it when you send or receive, that seems like an easy decision. It's more the when you're just trying to refresh independently of any transaction
So
where
it's
the
does it
options come in.
it's only coming into play then if they want to refresh it on their own initiative.
If they don't want to have to refresh on their own initiative and end up paying the fees and all of that, because Payjoin doesn't have to be involved. If I just like get notification every 6 months, I just open the app and refresh my time logs. In that case, Payjoin is not even required. The
Right.
Payjoin comes in because it allows you to be opportunistic before the coins are supposed to expire.
Okay.
Because I'm receiving a transaction, I can just uh, refresh my time loss during that
So it's
process.
more on the receive side where it
Yeah,
comes in for privacy. Okay.
yeah.
It's useful. I think it's actually more useful for, so there's two different things, right? There's the sending and the receiving. The receiving for Liana is more useful for time lock refresh because the Liana has this opportunity to refresh their time locks with all the fees paid for, or much of the fees paid for by someone external. It could be themselves, but like the sender is paying the fees typically. When sending, you don't really have a unique benefit to refresh because any send transaction has the opportunity to refresh. So there, the benefits are more privacy. But both sending and receiving have privacy benefits involved because, in general, we're breaking the common input heuristic.
Yashraj, you muted.
Sorry, guys. Dan, so that is why I think we had like come to this point. We had arrived at this point about like if Liana can run a server, then like the coordination becomes easier. Did that make sense to you, Dan?
That's the part that I actually don't understand, but I do have. So I want you to explain that, and I also have an article about this time lock refreshing that one of our contributors, Armin, wrote, and I think this would be very useful to understand. I don't know why I didn't think to share this before now. I shared it in Jitsi, and I'm going to share it in Discord as well.
Yeah, I think I've read that.
Okay.
So okay, let me try and explain why we thought like Liana running a server might help. We like realized that both the sender and on the receiver side, because there is no way to notify that hey, like you have this transaction, like come online and sign it. We don't have a way to do that in Payjoin because it's like the Dropbox model where you just like send the ESBT, then wait for the other party to show up and do their thing. And so that is like a coordination problem. And one way to solve that would have been to have a notification where the receiver can just receive a notification saying hey, like you like have this transaction incoming. uh, uh, why don't you go online and refresh your time logs now, thereby saving fees and all of that. But the communication, like the user will not know in Payjoin V2 that they have to do something like that. Did that make sense? And so running a server allows the notification thing, and it makes the coordination easier.
The issue is why are you interacting with this third-party server? You're probably not paying Liana, and Liana's not paying you. So I don't understand. I don't understand what that server is doing. Yeah, I don't understand what that server is doing. This is on behalf of a user, like they're hosting it for you.
Yeah. So
Okay, the issue with that though is that if you're trusting someone else, then they have the ability to take the money as a man in the middle of the protocol. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, can't you just set like output substitution to be off?
Yeah, but
PJ is
then
equal to
why
0.
the whole reason to do this is because then there's a push notification so that Liana, you come back on and
Yeah,
you sign manually.
yeah, yeah. Otherwise, I might have no idea. I might be traveling somewhere, or I might have no idea that I might not have, like,
If that's the case, then someone sending to you though, would they
yeah.
not just fall back after the expiration and broadcast that original and still pay you?
They would then pay me, but then I
Like
have lost the opportunity to do the Payjoin, to do the time lock refresh. It's just like a regular coin I received. So if we want to do the Payjoin, be opportunistic, like the ability to be opportunistic comes if I'm able to do this, right?
yeah, there's the privacy concerns with using the V1 service. I don't. You couldn't even use the V1. It wouldn't make sense. You'd have to use the V2 because if you want it to be asynchronous, unless like the third-party server had the hotkeys.
How about
Yeah, I'm confused about the design.
so another thought here: if Liana can run the directory, like they don't run a V1 like server, they just run the directory,
Yeah,
and then
Liana
they
can.
also use the directory to send notification to the user. Like try to automate, like try to make one side of the page join easier.
Yeah, to wake the receiver up. The
Yeah,
problem is the directory isn't supposed to know any
I
of
know,
the
I know.
identities of
Yeah,
the contents.
yeah.
Something like this is possible. Yeah, something like that is possible.
Because Liana is gonna know anyway, right? I mean, chances are the user is not using their own node anyway. They are like you using the Liana infrastructure anyway. So why not run a directory server and just send the notification, and the page join to magic or HTTP magic ensures that Liana has no idea, like, what's inside. They cannot change anything.
Maybe making a visual. So what Yashraj is explaining is completely over my head. I'm not even going to pretend
Sorry.
I understand. So
Yeah,
what if
sorry.
you make a visual about this and like present this concept to both Dan and Manuel to see if it's actually possible?
Yeah, I mean, I'd
But
love
this,
to do. Yeah,
if I understand correctly, this would apply only to people that use our infrastructure, and the ones that
yeah.
use their own node, they will just need to log in and see the transaction in the first day, and then if not, they cannot use this opportunity. Let's say.
Well, I was just trying to make a point to Dan that Liana users might be relying on Liana's infrastructure for something already, and this thing doesn't hurt. That was what I was trying to say, but it's not required. Like I could be running my own node, but the Payjoin directory is run by Liana, and in that case I could be using my own node, and the ENI infrastructure is only used for the coordination thing, and it just helps the receiver like get a notification so that they can come online.
I think this could work for a receiver because a receiver you could have the configuration on what directory to use. Sender, it's out of your control. I
Yeah,
think it could work.
yeah. So we could consider doing something like that.
We're about an hour in, a little bit over an hour.
Yeah.
I feel like we've made a huge mess here at the end, which is kind of funny. It's all good. That's what it takes sometimes, to kind of find to each
Needs to
other.
be messy
I was
before it
I was a
makes
little bit confused there towards the end.
sense.
Maybe this requires another conversation, and clearly I need to learn a few things in the middle. I just wanted to clarify one thing here towards the end. So there's the sending and receiving in and out of the wallet, right? And that's kind of obvious. You're partnering with someone else, either it's yourself, party chain. But the majority of our conversation earlier was the independent
Yeah.
refresh. And I
Yes.
think that's where like no one else is involved. I'm just here by myself. I want to refresh my coins, and I need someone to help me, right? Because otherwise, I'm just going to send stuff to myself. It's kind of obvious. I'm not mixing anything. And I just wanted to make sure we don't have to solve it all now, but because I also just looked at the post that Dan shared, and that seems to be about the receive. So was the last part, the last 10 minutes, well, that was all about the receive, right? And this kind of independent sending to myself, solo action. We did not talk. That is
With the
kind of a
notification,
separate thing.
yes.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
issue with sending to yourself and having a third party contribute in a Payjoin is that there's no amount crossover if there's no actual payment being made. So
Mhm.
if I'm sending 2 Bitcoin to myself and Christoph, you're adding 3 Bitcoin to that, I'm still going to have 2 Bitcoin of inputs and 2 Bitcoin of outputs. And even if that's across multiple UTXOs and value exchanges, there's going to be a subset sum that distinguishes that from the 3 Bitcoin uh, input and output that match together. So there's not actually a huge privacy gain there compared to your actual Payjoin, where because of the payment, you have multiple interpretations of the same subset sum.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why coin joins have standardized amounts and all that stuff.
Yes,
Right.
if
Yeah.
you want to do arbitrary amounts, then you need to be very careful in which inputs are used and what the output amounts are, and you want to basically split amounts in the outputs so that there are multiple possible interpretations. And maybe it is possible to do that with just a Liana oracle, but that would definitely have a cost imposed beyond like a payment with a Payjoin. Like you'd probably need to pay Liana to provide liquidity, but it is an interesting idea. There are just caveats to doing it naively.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's something that's a decision for Liana. If this is something super important to their clients and customers, something they want to offer, then maybe it's worth doing that. But if not, and there's enough sending and receiving anyways happening, maybe it's not. That would probably be a project company specific evaluation.
Yeah.
Cool.
Should we maybe wrap it up since it's like over the hour and
Thank you
we
for
can move?
extending some extra time. I'm quite embarrassed.
No, you're good. Don't worry. I've done that so many times. I've
This is
just
normal.
like, yeah. No, really, I've really done this many times. I've like not heard the alert on my phone or something, and been like 3 hours later, oh my God, we had a call. It's all good.
If this is we're in Brazil, we would just get started right now. Everyone
All
would be
good.
2 hours late.
Don't worry, Dan.
We wouldn't even start now.
Don't worry about it.
You guys are being too nice.
Yeah.
So, but like, do you want to wrap up now and do something like that?
I mean, I would like to wrap up. You guys can keep talking if you
You
want
guys
to.
can keep
Totally
talking.
cool.
Yeah, I mean, feel free. I'm gonna just go off,
Yeah.
cook some dinner, and start my evening. But you could just carry
Yeah,
on.
that's right. Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry, guys. It's like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. for you right now. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Thank you.
So carry on talking, and we'll catch up online. Like, feel free to create diagrams or whatever as a follow up for this.
Yeah.
I'm curious what the solution is in the end.
And real quick, we're recording. Is everyone still comfortable at the end of this call with uploading the recording to YouTube?
Sure.
You're good? Okay, cool. Then I will stop it now, and this will also be part of the recording.